Today on the 01581, a conversation with Kristi Williams, our town manager, about the FY26 budget. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. I'm Shelby Marshall. I serve as one of your 5 select board members, and I'm here today with a regular guest on the show, Kristi Williams. Sometimes Kristi comes in for a quick update, but today we've got her for the whole show, so I'm very grateful for her time. One of the hot topics right now, or I would say the hot topic in town, is the FY26 budget. Even though we just entered into calendar year 2025, the way town government works is that we're already planning for FY26. And so the budget that Kristi's going to talk about in just a moment is the budget that will be presented most likely, because there are some variations in terms of timing potentially, but at annual town meeting in spring 2025. So there have been a lot of conversations happening between the select board primarily and the finance committee, as well as school committee, about potential cuts to the proposed budgets that were presented to us by the town manager and the superintendent. So I know Kristi's going to touch on that today. This is a conversation you want to follow, not just here, so appreciate you tuning in, but through the finance committee meetings, through the select board meetings, Facebook from the town posts, and school committee meetings. Really important conversations going on, because if we decide to change the budget from what was presented as a level service budget, there will be service impacts. You may or may not feel them personally, but there will be cuts, and we just need to understand that. So with that intro, Kristi, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so take us through. I know you got some slides here you're going to kind of pull up so that folks can kind of visually follow along as we're talking through things.
Sure, yeah. And then I would just also say, so this is a sort of abbreviated version of the presentation that I did on January 30th at the Budget Summit, which was actually a little bit abbreviated from the one I did on January 28th. And both of those presentations are available on the town website under Town Manager Budget Documents,
Right.
If people want to look at sort of the extended cut.
Sorry, let me quiet my watch. There we go.
Okay. So this is just our typical budget process. I've shown this slide many times, but essentially showing that we actually start planning for the next year's budget process in the fall the year before. So we started fiscal 25 in July of 2024, and then as soon as September of 2024, we started talking about fiscal 26.
Yeah.
And then this slide brings us through the budget summit, but that certainly isn't the end of the conversation, as you just described. There's certainly, after this is really all of this sort of digging in work that the select board, school committee, finance committee do. Yep. Whoops. So as Shelby said, we are presenting a level service budget, so that doesn't mean that the numbers don't change. It just means that we are not adding any additional services. And so as you can see on this slide, that's what we asked department heads to do as we prepared fiscal 26, really highlighting the fact that we were not going to support any additional positions that were funded through the general fund budget. So meaning no positions that were funded through the regular tax levy. These are things that we consider when we put our budgets together. These are some of the guiding documents. I think there are others because there are strategic plans within our different individual departments. But this is really where we look to see, what the town is expecting of the departments.
Yeah, and I just want to hang on this slide for just a moment, because I think it's important that the public understands that, as much as I understand the desire to kind of cut and reduce. We have, as we can see on this slide, we've been working on these plans for many, many years, and we've made investments in these plans by authorization of town meeting. I believe all of them. Strategic plan was authorized, master plan was authorized, climate action plan was given a vote of support, and the senior, all of these were budgetary items on a town meeting warrant that the town said go forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
that's true.
And in effect then accepted that, and now we're implementing those plans.
That's right.
which have been broadly shared. So, as a town, just like a business, right? You do a plan, and then you want to execute on that plan. That's what we're seeing here. That doesn't mean we can't pull back on plans, but sometimes I feel like there's not enough appreciation for the guiding documents aspect of it. So anyway, all right, off the box.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
This slide is really intended to just show some of the ways that we try to be creative and try to find efficiencies and reduce costs to the extent that we can. So on the left side, we're listing things that are complete. So I'll just go through them really quickly. Way back in 2013 or 14, the state had identified that every veterans office needed a certain amount of staffing. And so at the time, we didn't feel like we would be able to get to that amount of staffing. And so we created the Regional Veterans District, which has been really successful. And that's with other three other communities. We also had a couple of years ago decided that we would try working with only a part-time animal control officer that really wasn't serving the town. And so we were able to increase, actually we have a full-time and a part-time now animal control officer, but that budget is offset 38% by the town of Grafton because we're a regional animal control.
Right.
Sustainability coordinator is highlighted here. That was something that was identified in the climate action plan we added a couple years ago. The reason it's listed here is because we are offsetting half of that salary with grants that we've received. Regional Health District, again, there was an identification of the need for public health nursing. And so a couple years ago, and we didn't have one, and so we joined this Regional Health District, which we actually just got an innovation award for being a part of.
Yes.
And we were able to fund a public health nurse as well as some other things in the public health area. The management analyst, a communications assistant, that's a good example of when a position becomes vacant, especially after many years. We always look at the job descriptions and look at the needs of the office and the town. And so when the administrative assistant position in our office became vacant, we changed the title and the job description for this management analyst communications assistant, which really enhanced our communication efforts with the community.
And note to that, right now that position has not been filled.
That's right.
And that position, if the cuts go forward, would remain unfilled. And that to me is a great example of a service level impact that many residents could feel around. You had started a newsletter, right? That takes time to assemble. Regular requests for kind of information.
The Civic Leadership Academy was done by that position as well.
Ouch. I keep talking to people about that one, that they need to sign up for the next one. All right, go ahead.
I'll just go more quickly.
You're fine.
But Youth and Family Services, we really struggled to get those positions filled. We talked about that on the show and other things. And so we have this new service delivery model, and we're really proud of it. I think it's really been successful. We've increased the number of residents that we're serving. And we're actually doing it, you'll see on a different slide, for just about the same cost that we would have if we retained employees. Waste management program, you'll see on a future slide that with the implementation of pay as you throw, as well as our new contract, we actually are reducing that budget. And then the part-time community development assistant, that was a really difficult position to fill, very part-time sort of board secretary positions. So we created this part-time 19-hour-a-week position that's fully funded by the ZBA board secretary budget, the historical commission board secretary budget, and then also CPA funds. Right.
So collapsing that, you get sort of a better overall outcome rather than piecemeal.
Right. Yep. And then currently, we are reviewing our health insurance with union leadership. It's called our Insurance Advisory Committee. That group has been very effective, works really well together in terms of identifying opportunities for savings. So we always do that, and we will certainly do that again this year.
Yep.
We're also reviewing an opportunity to partner with Worcester Regional Transit Authority to provide senior transportation. That's something we're really hoping to move forward sort of more quickly as soon as we get someone into the Senior and Social Services Director role. And then working to develop recreation programs and new offerings, including birthday parties at the community center in order to continue working towards offsetting costs.
Sure.
So right now, the recreation department their only expenses within the budget, so the only ones paid by taxes are the full-time positions. And so all of their expenses are fully covered by their program fees. And so sort of now that we have this opportunity with the community center, working to now further offset that cost.
The full-time position and staffing, yep.
And then the Regional Emergency Communication Center is something we talk a lot about. That's the Regional Dispatch Center. That actually won't come online until probably fiscal 27, but that's certainly an opportunity for efficiency and actually savings as well.
Yep.
So when we dig into the fiscal 26 budget as currently presented, you'll see that the town is estimating a 4.12% increase. That includes a 2% increase for positions in the 4 unions that those contracts are not yet settled. And so that will likely need to be adjusted depending on the outcome of those. And then the school budget increase is the 5.77%. And then fixed costs are looking to increase 9.5%. That's debt, insurance, electricity, and the landfill is currently in there, but we can talk more about that. So just sort of looking at the town side operation, so this is exclusive of fixed costs, exclusive of the school. Our salary and wages are going up about 4.9%, and expenses 3.2%.
Sure. Yep.
And then this is just really getting into the detail of some of the drivers for those increases. So the Council on Aging, we're proposing to increase the program coordinator for 25 to 32 hours. We've tried to offset that using a grant by moving, we have a handyman position right now. It's a very part-time position that's funded through the tax levy. It would actually move over to the grant, and so then we would be able to fund almost all, except for a couple $100 of the increase to the program coordinator hours. This was a position, I'll say, that was identified when we purchased the community center as something that we would be looking for in the future.
Yep.
The assistant town planner is a position that we started halfway through fiscal 25. That was in the budget. That's how we presented it, and then is fully funded in fiscal 26. But that is actually also offset by the Affordable Housing Trust at 11 hours per week.
Yep.
And then the recreation department hired a second program coordinator to focus fully on programming the community center. And again, that similarly was 6 months budgeted in the fiscal 25 budget and fully budgeted in fiscal 26. And then just noting that the 3 patrol officers that we hired in fiscal 23 using ARPA funds, we sort of rolled off the use of ARPA funds because we needed to in fiscal 25, so they're fully funded in fiscal 26, and that was an incremental increase to the budget over the years.
And that those police department, I create a parallel to when we received the safer grant for the fire department. Again, totally different funding source where we said, okay, we've got this, and then we've got to gradually roll it into the budget. Yep.
And then these are just some drivers in the expenses. Some of them are smaller numbers, but they represent sort of a bigger percentage increase. And so I won't go through all of them. I will note that in the planning department, that $4,000, they have a very small budget, so $4,000 is a big percent increase.
I remember flagging that in my budget book, and then as I understood it, I mean, again, this creates efficiencies, right? You have an updated zoning table and technology to support it. You know, people can kind of do more self-service rather than maybe a phone call, or it's just a quick explanation of where to find it.
Yeah, so General Code now handles our zoning bylaw, and they support this E-code, so it makes it much easier to navigate on the website. But when we send them zoning changes, we have to. There's a charge, and that's what that $4,000 is for. And then I guess I'll highlight on the next couple of pages the Youth and Family Services. So this just shows the community center. The reason the slide looks a little different is because this comes directly out of the budget book. It's page 12 of the fiscal 26 budget book. But the importance of this slide, I think, is that we're showing what was estimated when we purchased the building back in October of 23, what we thought the operating expenses would be. So in October of 23, we were in fiscal 24, and we estimated what we thought the fiscal 25 number would be. And at the time, we were estimating $180.84 to the average single family. In actuality, in fiscal 25, it was $145.97. And part of that was because we didn't fully bring on all of the staffing that we thought we would.
Yep.
But also part of that was because the debt actually came in less.
Sure.
So,
Sure. Which is also big picture, taking a step back, correct me if I'm wrong here, is the debt, meaning the interest we're paying, our ability to restructure short-term, long-term, our bond rating, all of that is tied into things that I know you're always kind of emphasizing about how much free cash do we have? Are we being consistent with our policies, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, I'm sure I'm leaving some things off, but it's not, didn't just happen by luck.
Right.
It's as a result of solid fiscal and financial planning that allows that number to come in better than we anticipated.
Right.
So,
absolutely. So fiscal 25 is that 145.97. In fiscal 26, we're estimating the impact of the whole community center. So everything that we've already paid for, plus $5, so $151.39. So I think that's really important because I know it's been talked about because this slide sort of looks like we're sort of newly paying the $150.
Yeah.
It's not a new $150. It's an additional $5 over the current year's taxes for support of this building.
Yeah, good, important explanation there. And just as a note here, one of the things, just so the public is aware, that we've talked about is that custodian position has been raised as a question. So as the library, assuming the repair project goes forward, this position that you're presenting on the slide is for the custodian for the community center. It's a huge building. It needs to be maintained top and bottom ultimately, and inside and out. But as the library goes into that temporary space on the first floor, the library has a custodian. So the question was raised at our budget summit. I'm not asking you to comment. I'm really just kind of sharing it with the public of, is this an opportunity to say, let's hold off on hiring, we have an existing position before we go out and hire another person for kind of that building, or is there an opportunity there? So for cost savings, really.
So just for clarity, this custodian has already been hired.
My mistake.
Yeah.
So, but the question would be then, I guess, so would we cut a position based on, I mean, this is me speaking as a select board member, and kind of the discussion at the summit was, okay, we're moving a whole department into that building, and we have a custodian. Like, do we need two custodians in it? I think those are really difficult discussions, and I know we're talking about human beings and their livelihood, but those are the types of difficult discussions we're having. I just kind of want to share that with the community of we're looking at everything.
Yeah, they're absolutely the types of difficult discussions that we're having. Right. I guess I would just say, just to sort of close out that point, is that we have a custodian that's essentially not fully, but mostly dedicated to the senior center. So so we added this custodian position, understanding that senior center custodian would move over when the senior center moved over. So lots to sort of think about in terms of fully occupying that building, given the size of the building.
Right.
So.
Right.
So youth and family services, this slide is really just intended to show that our current caseload is higher than it was before. So I think that's great because it means it's great because it means we're serving the needs of the community. Yep. We're serving more people than we were able to before.
Absolutely.
And then also there's some new programs being offered. So we have our outreach coordinator who's going out into different locations in the community, including the food pantry. We're also starting up a parent support group for grades 3 through 8. But at the bottom here, it shows that if we had continued with our previous model, we would be paying about or less than $500 more than we're currently paying in fiscal 26.
So more services, essentially the same cost.
The same cost, yeah.
Absolutely.
And then this is our fixed cost, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So you can see that we have the decrease in the landfill budget, and then increases in other items. I think this is one of the items that we talk about a lot, which is debt, because we borrow in March. So we borrow in early March. So our budget carries an estimated interest rate, which we will know before town meeting and be able to make adjustments based on what the actual interest rate is.
Right. Are you going to talk a little bit more about the landfill piece? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Next slide. All right. Awesome.
So this is kind of a busy slide, but essentially is just going to show that on the left side, the table is showing that the enforcement that has been done with the Waste Management Program Coordinator. When we say enforcement, we also mean education.
Yep.
So really just making sure that residents are aware of the new program and sort of the rules around that. But it also is enforcement because we found that there were a lot of cars coming from other communities without stickers, not residential cars. So, that's been a really helpful way to really manage our waste, and we pay per ton, so it's really important.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those, I'll step just to the side here for this conversation. So I see on social media where people are like, oh, and now I've got to pay for my bags. But so the idea of this is that we took out a significant amount of cost out of the tax levy and then put it into a situation of, yes, you have to pay for your bags, but then you're only paying for what you throw, like what you use. So rather than everyone just kind of paying like, here's what it is without enforcement, with essentially kind of what was over tonnage. So we're doing a better job managing it. And now you're paying for what you throw. So you have a chance to recycle, you have a chance to compost. You have personal control of that cost versus just a fuller or bigger flat line number in the budget.
Right. So we also reduced the sticker costs, so the transportation stickers, and so there is still an offset with the levy for this program, but yes, you certainly control how much you throw, and I think another important point is that currently, we have the budget at a certain amount, and you're paying for bags, and then fiscal 26, the budget will reduce, even though you're still continuing to pay for bags.
Right. So I know it's been a change. I appreciate that we had residents come forward after we launched this program and said, hey, can we offer some senior discounts? And we did that. So my sense is, although, some change is difficult and people just want it to be the way it was, to me this was aligned on multiple points. One is we're reducing tonnage, so that's good for the environment. Two, people are paying for what they throw. We're paying more accurately for the services that the town is actually receiving, and our budget is has been reduced. So win-win-win.
Yeah, and we only have a couple of months of experience, so I think we're going to continue to look at it and see what further changes should be made. So. This slide just shows our health insurance over the years, so it's really meant to represent that we do, as I mentioned, really hard work
with an EKG
with the Insurance Advisory Committee to try to mitigate some of these big increases. So currently, we're budgeting a 10% increase. Our current what we've heard from our current carrier is that it might be more than that, and that's why we actually have a meeting tomorrow to work on some of those changes and how we might deal with that large increase. And then this was asked of me, so I just added this slide, which really just apportions the insurance. So we do pay 75% for active employees and retirees, and that's how it breaks out between town and school. And then just really wanting to highlight those outstanding items. So we continue to have, we're continuing to work on the insurance budget. We have not received our final assessment number for Aspet Valley. State aid continues to work through their own budget process, our union contracts. The electricity budget, we're looking to sign a new contract that would begin in December of 25, and that's for the town buildings, not the aggregation plan. And then we have the debt budget, which I mentioned earlier, and then Westborough TV, we're working with them as well on an agreement so that we can continue all this good work to bring. And really outside of a show like this, it really is about covering town meetings. I mean, from your lens, it's not all the other kind of work of, There's been a lot of discussion this year about how we estimate revenues. So just sort of as a reminder, we always say we start early. When we start that early, we're more conservative. As we move through the year, getting up to the point where we set the tax rate, we have more actual experience, and so we're able to adjust those numbers. But beginning in December, we look at historical trends. We look at the current fiscal year's revenues to date, market review. We do actually consult with industry professionals, so even like folks in the automotive industry, just to understand like what excise taxes might look like. So
Sure.
There really is a lot of work that goes into that. And then we look at the state's consensus revenue hearing to see sort of what they're feeling. And this year they were very conservative as well, because there's a lot of questions about sort of what's going to happen at the federal level.
Yep, absolutely.
And they've also identified that the growth that we've experienced over the past few years as a recovery from COVID is slowing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, this is, I was going to say, are you going to share the slide? Yeah, this is an important one, folks.
So this just shows how revenues are applied. So this one, each bar represents sort of the total budget. Yep. And then the purple is offset by, that's the local receipts. So we offset the budget by local receipts, and then we offset the budget by state aid, which is that orange. So the orange is what we get from the state. That reduces the tax levy. The purple is the revenues and other local receipts that we receive. So that reduces the tax levy. And then the blue is the tax levy. So this is just showing.
But the paragraph below this is to me is sort of the period punch here. And that is, so if local receipts come in lower, if state aid comes in lower, that whole bar in 2026, or even obviously previous years, is what is going to cost to run the town, basically, and the schools.
Right.
And so we either would have to make up purple plus orange in free cash, or go back and raise it on the levy.
Right. And once the town votes on the budget, that's just something that we have to do.
Exactly.
So,
right. So it's important for. I think. This is a great visual slide, and I think this is a point that needs to continue to be understood, which is why, to your point, Kristi, you and your team continue to look at what do those local receipts look like, what does state aid look like, so that we understand as we get to town meeting, this is the budget, right? And we need to support the budget by, the budget is the budget, town meeting will vote it, but this is the number regardless of how it's going to be funded.
Right. And so this slide here just shows the black and the next red are for each fiscal year, just showing sort of where we start with our local receipt estimates, and then where we end. The red is where we end at the point at which we set the tax rate. So this is just showing that we're constantly reviewing it, and it changes.
And there's a lag. I think that's important. We set the estimate is set at annual town meeting. We don't get the actual until November, when we set the tax rate in November.
Right.
So there's a lag period. And so
Right.
one of the points that has been brought up through many of these conversations, some through residents, is, well, can we be less conservative in our estimating to lower the tax rate initially when we set the budget? But your experience and all the input would suggest there's tremendous risk in doing that per the last slide, because if we come in lower on receipts, then the levy's going to have to change.
Right.
So I mean, this process has worked for us well in the past. I mean, you continue to be asked questions about it, and I think we can continue to look at this, but the conservative estimates coming out of at the state, and certainly given the impact of the federal level, to me are very concerning. And I don't think that this is the year to play around with the revenues. That's just one person's humble opinion.
This is current projections, so this is our estimated average single family tax increase, and this is based on the budget as currently presented, as well as the estimates as currently estimated.
Right.
And then this just shows that the increase in value of homes is also increases the average
driver.
single family. So, and then at the bottom here, it's just sort of a couple different data points. We always say the average, so it's the 969. And then, but if your home is worth less, I mean, this is, I know everyone understands this, but so the increase is less. So I think it's just giving a couple different data points just to sort of look at that. And then this is our comparison communities, but this is for the current year average single family average tax bill. And then our excess levy capacity. So we do not tax to our levy limit.
Right.
So when you hear other communities talking about Proposition 2.5 and having to sort of deal with that, we have not historically taxed to our levy limit. And
on wood.
so I think that does show fiscal responsibility.
Absolutely.
But you can see in this year, as the number goes down, that means we're going above that 2.5%.
Yep.
This is just a slide on the capital plan. So our capital projects represent between 1 and 1.5 of our general fund operating budget.
Yep.
And all of that information is also available online. And also in the warrant, you can see what the capital budget would be for fiscal 26, how it's proposed. This is just some notes on free cash. This is a slide that I borrowed from the Division of Local Services that just shows that 73% of municipalities that certify free cash maintain their free cash balance between 5 and 7.5% of our budget, which is what we do. That's our goal,
Yep.
and that's where we maintain our free cash.
Yep.
If this slide represents this slide represents what we've used for free cash in the past. So when you look at our total free cash and then the percentage that we're proposing to use or have used in the past, and the reason that 2024 has the green is because that was in that year we transferred to stabilization as well.
Yep.
These are different ways that we use free cash. So on the left there, you can see that we're within our goal. This shows. When you look at the town meeting warrant, you see that there's a lot of articles that pull from free
Yes.
cash.
Yep.
If we did not have free cash available to us, the alternate opportunity for funding would be raise and appropriate. So that means that it would have a tax impact.
Right.
And so this slide is intended to show if we were not using free cash for a lot of the items, what the proposed average single family would be if we alternatively did the raise and appropriate.
Hence, the importance of continuing to maintain a healthy free cash fund balance, excuse me,
Yep.
so that so folks that say, well, we just need to live within our budget. Well, if we did, all of those items that are going to be on the town meeting warrant and have been for as long as I can remember would not have been funded, or our tax rate would have gone up. So
Right.
I know that nothing is free,
Right.
but it is kind of, simple. Like I look at it, it's a savings account that we push against a very defined policy around capital planning. And then we say, these are investments the town can make for the long term.
Right.
And I don't know. I think it's pretty straightforward. But
And this is my last slide. So this one just shows sort of the breakdown of the average single family tax bill, and just showing the different services and how they're supported through that bill.
So, Kristi, thank you very much.
Sure.
A lot of information. So, folks, if you are interested in what's going on with your taxes, and I believe you are if you're watching this show, many opportunities in which to engage in the conversation. The Finance Committee meets regularly. They are meeting with various department heads. They'll likely call our town manager back in to have discussions further about the budget, certainly the superintendent as well. The school committee will continue to discuss its budget. The select board will continue to discuss the town side budget. So lots of opportunities to follow the conversation. I know the community advocate as well is trying to stay tuned with this. Those are snippet, kind of reports. If you want to know really kind of what's going on in depth, take some time to watch the meetings. Thank you, Westborough TV, for recording all of them, and folks can watch them on playback at their convenience. So lots of work to do between now and annual town meeting. So thank you so much, Kristi, for your time today.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank
super.
you.
I'll be right back with an update from the Westborough Rotary Club. Hi, welcome back to this episode of the 01581 Let's Talk. We're going to transition from talking about the FY26 budget to something quite a bit lighter and certainly fun and inspiring. And I'm joined for this segment by Reina Rego. She is the current president of the Westborough Rotary Club, and she's here to talk about an initiative, a program that the Rotary Club is launching, and I'm going to turn it over to her. So welcome.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Shelby. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. So tell me about this program, Not All Heroes Wear Capes. I love it.
That's the truth. It became more apparent to me in the last year, and I think we can all agree that we've needed a little bit of light and brightness to our lives. There's a lot going on in the world, and sometimes we rush. We seem to be too busy to notice the people who are quiet, the people who are doing great things for others, not because they're getting paid, not because they're looking for an award, because they care. And that's what makes a community great. That's what makes the world great. So in talking with my fellow Rotarians, because we're part of a service community, a service organization, and we often will ask and talk about, we'll ask each other about what's going on in the community,
Sure.
what's going on in their backyards, what's going on in their front yards. And we kind of came to a realization that we've all been sort of, I don't want to say numb, but a little bit like sitting back going, oh, things are going okay. I mean, and then all of a sudden we woke up. I don't know. I woke up a little bit late, but I woke up and said, we have some amazing people in our community.
Yep.
Young people, youth, students, and adults who are
Yep.
doing great things because they care. So we put our hats, well, we put our capes on, and we said, we are going to recognize these unsung heroes. These are the quiet, humble warriors. And I say that because I've become more observant, and even just something as simple as you sit in a coffee shop, let's say, and you're sitting there, and you see somebody who is putting away, I'll think about this Red Barn, and I see somebody literally there's books all over the place that haven't been put away,
Yep.
and this person is putting all the books in order. Now maybe they are a neat freak, but well, that's okay.
It's okay.
They're putting all the books in order and picking up the trash. Who asked them to do that?
Yeah, creating a better experience for someone else.
Yes, because they
and
care.
for the whole. Because they care.
Simple.
Yep.
Simple. Now we can go grander and say
Yeah.
there are these Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, who are doing remarkable things, whether it be, Earth Day cleanup, building a bench, building a birdhouse. And yes, they're getting awards, but they're doing it because they care. So that became sort of the impetus of noticing, wondering, and for me, as somebody who stays busy, I just started to think that we need to do something for recognizing individuals who go unnoticed.
Yeah.
You may recall, I'm sure you do, because you were there, the winter lights. We had a situation in December where the lights and the sound, everything was seemingly going well until a wonderful person who always does, Steve, and I can't say his last name. but-
Masharelli.
Masharelli, yes,
Yep.
Steve, thank you. He was not able to come because he fell off a ladder and broke both his feet. This is not funny, but it happened.
Yeah. Literally, like
And
that
literally
day.
that day.
Yep.
And within 5 or 10 minutes, I mean, literally from the hospital, he called one of his former students, Andrew, whose last name I cannot pronounce because it's this long,
Yeah.
Andrew, but you
Yeah.
know who you are.
Yeah.
Andrew came, he swept in. He didn't have a cape, but he should have.
Yeah.
And he handled the whole sound for the entire event.
Yep.
No questions asked, no money involved,
Yep.
no transactions other than I'm going to help you.
Yep.
I want to see those people, and I am saying to the community at large, wake up, start looking around you. Thank people. Nominate an unsung hero. We've got them. They're hiding. Some of them are hiding deep down.
Yep.
They're at the schools. They might be at a senior center. They could be working at a library because they care about literacy.
Church.
Churches, temples. My goodness, the list goes on and on. Lots of organizations, people who are in the civic club, garden club. What do you care about?
Yeah.
What do you care about? And who is behind the scenes? Who's not getting recognized?
Right. Right.
So we're going to lift them up. We're going to do an event to recognize them in April. Nominations are due by February 28th, and boy, oh boy, it's happening fast.
Yeah.
So that's my
Awesome.
story.
Yeah, so we'll this flyer and the QR code will be on the screen here with our friends, thanks to our technical wizards, Westborough TV. So again, to nominate an unsung hero, you want to do that by February 28th. The form to fill out is very straightforward. Little question on
Yep.
the nomination. Can it be anonymous? Or does it require someone's...
It does require, because we need to contact that person in order to let the person they know who they nominated. There's a little bit of a...
No, so if I'm
Yeah.
nominating someone, can I be an anonymous nominator?
Nominator. Oh, yeah, that...
Other than to the Rotary Club?
I would rather say no.
Okay.
Because it's important that we contact that person to get a little more insight.
Little more information,
Yeah,
okay.
and we're nominating 3 youth, 3 adults.
Okay.
I mean, I understand, we are accepting nominees who have passed posthumously.
Okay.
So that's something to
Okay.
consider, because there are
Okay.
plenty of people who we didn't get a chance to
Sure,
recognize
sure.
who aren't with us anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so, well, either way. So just, and I asked the question because sometimes people are like,
it's-
oh, I don't
yeah.
want to kind of, like, this person is great, but I don't want to kind of get involved.
Right.
But I think understanding maybe a little more on the backstory for the nomination.
Right.
And if you're going to nominate someone, you want to celebrate that, right?
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah.
So, so nominate your unsung hero. With through the QR code. You can also contact the Rotary Club of Westborough at, what's the best email?
Well, I would say that the better way to do it is to go on our website.
Okay.
That would be the better way. And also, we are continually pushing it on social media through the Heart of Westborough. Westborough Connects is
Yep.
one of our partners. We collaborate with all of the different clubs. But the Westborough Rotary website would be a good start. We have the flyers all around town, not littering, no littering.
Right, right. Okay, super. So, who is that unsung hero? Someone you see just doing acts of good that make our community better or make the world a better place. And again, 3 youth, 3 adults. Nominations in by the 28th. And
One more thing.
Yes, please.
Well, actually, 2 more things. The individual, the unsung hero, does not have to live in Westborough.
Okay. Okay.
Nor do they have to be a Rotarian. There are people who do lots of good for our community who happen to work here, or maybe they have family here and they're involved in other ways. So that's
Okay.
good to
Yeah,
know.
good point. So just someone, again, it's just, we want to honor the remarkable heroes, youth and adults who unselfishly serve and give inspirational leadership. So I'm sure you know of at least one person who you think you want to lift up
Yes.
just by the nomination process. And Raina, I would love to have you back on as we get closer to that April
happy
time
to.
frame to talk about kind of the event itself.
And I'm going to be wearing a cape to announce the winner. And they will be getting a special recognition, but
Awesome.
I'm sworn to
Yeah,
secrecy.
no, you can't do that.
Can't
Awesome.
tell you guys. You
Awesome.
got to be at the event.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on. Awesome,
My
great,
honor.
thanks. So, lots going on here in Westborough. Stay tuned to that budget process. Nominate a hero, and until the next show, take care of yourself. Be well and take care of each other.